Welcome to Inner Peace with Dr. Reese, a program that can help you become liberated in the modern world. Now, here's your host, Dr. Kevin W. Reese.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Peace with Dr. Reese. I am outside on a beautiful day in Glastonbury next to a monster beech tree. And the only reason why I know it's a beech tree is because I'm joined by Erik Harris, otherwise known as the Earth Walker. Was that good? That was good?
That's good, yeah.
Oh, man. So I'm super excited to talk to you today. For those just checking in, just listening to the podcast for the first time, the first 12 episodes of this pod is the protocol of what I call the inner peace practice. And from there on out, I am interviewing interesting people of peace. And you are definitely one of those people, my friend. You and I have crossed paths in the holistic community of Hartford. And we ended up linking up at a mutual friend's birthday party, and having all sorts of conversation while everyone else is looking at us like, what are they doing in the corner? And you know, I'm a Zen guy, you're a Tao guy, and they're very similar. And you're a herbalist, and I'm a healer as well, using usually fruit and fasting. You use herbs.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap with us.
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. Different perspectives.
And we're able to, share client stories. And but you got this nature thing going. And I want to start there.
Okay.
You knew that was a beech tree.
Yeah.
Now, I've been wondering for years. I've seen this tree many times. How do you know that?
Well, I know that because I guess I owe a lot of that to my father, actually, who... Growing up, we burn wood for heat and stuff at his house.
Wow.
And so we had to go, and I hated it as a kid, but we had to go and identify trees and cut them and split them and bring them into the house, right? And so he was the first person that showed me what the different trees were and learning to identify their bark and the leaves and stuff like that, But now I'm grateful for it. As a kid, I remember being like, oh God, But now I'm like so grateful for that teaching, because it just has evolved from there. My studying of nature and plants and trees.
You're in deep, and you have a good understanding of mushrooms.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good.
I think people give me more credit than I actually have, but yeah, pretty good. More than the lay person, let's put it that way.
Right, and obviously you have a great understanding of herbs.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Western herbs, Chinese herbs, yeah.
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 And, you recommended a nature book to me, which I haven't read yet. I got it, though.
Yeah.
What was it, The Nature Instinct?
Yeah, it's called The Nature Instinct by Tristan Gooley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading that, man. Yeah.
It really opened a lot of eyes for me.
Yeah. So you can basically look around and see things that you didn't see before?
After reading that book?
Yeah. As far as certain knowledge, certain wisdom.
Yeah. And for me, it's an evolution of my teaching. We're always learning, right? And it's always expanding. And the author actually reminds me a lot of one of my teachers that taught me primitive skills. So back when I was in college, I met this guy that studied with Native Americans, and he introduced me to a lot of their teachings. So learning how to build debris shelters, fire by friction, and he was the first person that taught me how to forage for plants, because I had been exposed to the trees from my father, but I didn't realize the whole world around us of the medicine that is right beneath our feet.
Right.
And so, and it's funny because that author Tristan Gooley reminds me a lot of that teacher Bruce, because he was very looking from a different lens. He saw the world in a whole different way than most people do. And he was, at 20 years old, I was very impressionable, and I was open to these things, and so I was like a sponge, and it really, I think my life was actually forever changed from meeting that guy and studying with him. I went up to his, he had a bunch of acres in New Hampshire, and he did like a week-long wilderness retreat and stuff, and I went up and studied with him, and we did sweat lodges, Native American sweat lodges to start and then to end, and it was very powerful experience. So
yeah, and you post videos online sometimes, social media, where you do the foraging.
Yeah.
And you bring people along with you?
Yeah. And I try to educate people on simple things that, everyone can kind of find and identify, like not stuff that's like kind of hard, and, stuff that's like very common, and that, like I said, people could be right in their backyard, you know what I mean? And as long as they're not spraying with any chemicals and stuff, they can actually harvest them and use them.
Yeah. When did you get into Taoism?
So I definitely got into Taoism because of my teacher, Dr. Ming Wu. But I definitely, I was exposed, like we talked about at that party, we've been exposed to a lot of different teachings, right?
A lot of different traditions,
and
teachings.
you kind of, the people that are seekers, that's what they do.
Yes.
The people that,
yes.
they're not,
yes.
Because I was originally brought up actually in the Catholic Church. Believe it or not, at one time I was an altar boy. Okay. And, and that's fine. That can work for some people. I saw it work amazing for my grandparents. They were incredible people of faith, and they lived an amazing example, but I realized by the time I was like 13 years old that wasn't right for me.
Right.
I had learned some things from it, but there was things that just like everything in my body was saying, I need something different.
Dude, the same thing happened to me. I was brought up Jewish.
Okay.
Had the bar mitzvah. Did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Did not enjoy it at all. Like, I'd ask my dad in the car on the way home from Sunday school, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
He'd be like, I don't know. Your mom wants you to do it.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people do. They follow the tradition, the routine, and what their parents bring them up to do. And, but for some people, that's not enough,
right.
And that's fine. It's fine if it is enough for people, but for me and you, I know it's like I had to start, and I had a friend that was Christian, but then she took me to like different Christian churches and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then and then my dad's side of the family, they were more like Baptists, and like I went to their churches. Like I went through this phase where I was like, I'm gonna go sit in on a bunch of different churches, right? But like again, none of them truly worked for me. I had some good times at like a Universalist church, like one of the Unitarian, stuff like that, because they see from a lot of perspectives. So, anyway, so I started soaking up a lot of material as I started getting older, into my late teens, into my early 20s, Buddhism, all kind of more mainstream stuff, I would say, things that were out there like John Kabat-Zinn, mindfulness meditation, transcendental meditation, stuff like that. But definitely with my teacher, he's the first person that really exposed me to the Taoism, the Tao Te Ching, and like Chun Tzu is another one.
Chun Tzu, yeah.
And I think I really, that was just my exposure and how I begin to kind of develop it, and and it's still an ongoing thing. It's following the way of the Tao. It's you go off the path, you can always get back on though.
Hey, the Force in Star Wars, is that really the Tao?
Totally. I mean, to me, there's so much analogies there with the Force. I am one with the Force.
George Lucas knew what he was doing.
Yeah, the Force is one with me, right? At all times, right? We are part of the Tao, and the Tao is a part of us. It's never separate.
And the Jedi Masters are very similar to the Zen Masters.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of crossover. It's not all science fiction there.
No.
It's amazing stuff. You said the key word. Seeker. When someone's a seeker, man, they go down rabbit holes, and they keep going and going and going, and when they find, boom, there it is.
Yeah.
Whereas, I'll say the Western traditions, the 3 Abrahamic religions, it's not so much seeking as it is following.
Yeah.
I don't mean any disrespect to anyone, but remember, if you get insulted, that's just your ego.
Yeah.
So
it's all good.
the Eastern, I talk about the Eastern traditions on this podcast quite a bit, and it's just a different culture, it's just a different way. And the one that you use, Taoism, is fascinating.
Well, and all of Chinese medicine is based off of Taoist philosophy.
Right.
So-
And it's just fascinating to me because Lao Tzu, the hermit, the
Yeah.
master hermit, was pretty much the same time as Gautama the Buddha. The
Oh,
Buddha.
yeah.
The Buddha. Arguably top 3 most popular spiritual teachers ever. You could make a case for number 1.
Yeah. Across the world, yeah.
Across the world.
Yeah.
Lao Tzu, not so much.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that anyone was more powerful. Like that's the difference. But the Jedi analogy, parallel. In science fiction, it's who's more powerful. But once you reach a certain level, you're all the same. And could you shed some light on Lao Tzu? I mean, this guy was amazing. You know?
Yeah.
He was amazing, and the same time as the Buddha.
Yeah.
Same time. Different parts of the world.
Yeah.
No internet back then.
No.
It's 2,500 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think the reason why he wasn't as maybe, like if you think about like Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Like Jesus had all these followers and all these people talking about him, right? And putting him up on a pedestal,
Right.
which is what a lot of people do with their gurus, right?
Right.
But Lao Tzu was, from my understanding, like he was part of society, right? And when I think there was a lot of Confucianism starting to develop, right? And especially in the ways of the government, right? It started integrating or taking over, whatever word you want to use, for the Chinese government. And he kind of saw, it wasn't that they were opposites or against each other, but he just was like, I don't want to follow that way of society, right? And so he said, I'm going to leave society. I'm going to go up in the mountains and do my own thing and be a part of nature, really, is what I saw it as, maybe as the evolution of our species and how things were changing. He kind of said, well, I need to stay to my roots, true to my roots, right? And so from my understanding, the story of the Tao Te Ching was when he was leaving the city, a guard or, somebody stopped him and said,
we want the teaching.
Wait, hold on. Before you go, please, this person knew that he had wisdom, and he said, can you, he probably knew, he said, we're never going to see you again,
Right.
And he said, can you just tell us some teaching, some words of wisdom to live by, right? And from my understanding, what it was is he literally sat down on a rock and had, some paper and some ink and verbatim wrote down the 108 verses of the Tao Te Ching like that, probably like in an afternoon. And then when he was done, he handed it off and he let go and he walked away. And, as far as maybe the society, no one really ever saw him again. Maybe some other people saw him
And he
again.
had some disciples.
Yeah, he definitely had disciples.
This book is the most beautiful spiritual book I've ever read in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm more on the, like I said, I'm more on the Zen side. Although Zen was inspired by Taoism.
Yeah, it's like Zen's like a combination, right?
Yeah, it is. It's Buddha and Lao Tzu,
Yeah.
basically. Lao Tzu is the earthly guy, the nature guy, and the Buddha is the science of the mind, if you will.
Yeah. And I see more like the air,
Yeah.
the air with the earth.
Yes.
That combination, yeah.
This book, the Tao Te Ching, is like poetry, man.
Yeah.
I remember reading it for the first time and being like, wow. Some things I got, some things I didn't at first. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful, and I love how on your podcast, Healing is in Your Hands, you read little excerpts, you read chapters from the Tao. And you have a little book in front of you right now. It's small.
Yeah.
I've never seen one so small.
Oh, I love this little book.
It's 3 inches by 2 maybe?
Yeah, probably.
And you can just carry it around.
Yeah. I've had this book a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
So.
man. And would you mind reading one chapter right now?
Sure. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw recently, I did an 81 Days of Tao on Instagram.
Yes.
So, and that's on my Instagram TV. You can find that at Chi
Okay.
for Healing.
Sure.
So, and I did that in honor of my dog, I wanted to say, because my dog passed away this spring.
Okay.
And he was such a Taoist dog. That dog really lived the way of the Tao, you
Yeah.
know, and I really felt called. It's part of my healing, and, you know, and also I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And I said, well, now's the time, you know.
Okay.
So I recently read, you know, every day I read a chapter from this book.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
and this is probably my favorite translation. This is translated by Stephen Mitchell.
I'm
And
familiar, yeah. I have the audiobook.
And I think it really, I think he really makes it easier for people in the Western world to maybe comprehend some of these teachings.
Right.
You know, because I've read some more like direct translations, you know, that are more like from Chinese to English, right? There are interpretation, and there's stuff there, like you can pick stuff up, right? But I think like for English speaking people, I think this was a really good translation. So, all right, so I'll read one of my favorite passages.
Let's do it.
This is chapter 8. The supreme good is like water, which nourishes all things without trying to. It is content with the low places that people disdain. Thus it is like the Tao. In dwelling, live close to the ground. In thinking, keep to the simple. In conflict, be fair and generous. In governing, don't try to control. In work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be completely present. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you.
It's just so beautiful. Dude, I remember I started with the audiobook, and I would go on walks and I'd listen to the Stephen Mitchell version. I think it's him narrating it too. I don't know, it might be someone else. And I would just be walking in nature listening to these words, like, whoa, dude, it's like a mini awakening, you know. I hope somebody got something out of that, because man, I don't know who could say it better.
Yeah.
Maybe Jalaluddin Rumi,
Yeah, Rumi.
the great mystic poet. It's a toss up there, you know. It's like, just the words are so beautiful. The teachings are so simple. It's just
Well,
a
each
beautiful
sentence can be, you can meditate on one sentence.
thing. One sentence,
you know, and really get something from it, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Stay low to the ground.
Yeah.
Stay low to the ground. Don't get too high. And that could be, that could be commentated on in different ways too. That ego, nature. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I would just recommend everyone to get the Tao Te Ching, no matter what religious tradition you follow, and read that thing. Listen to the audiobook. Just beautiful. Definitely my top 3 favorite spiritual books of all time, without a doubt. Taoism is very much about nature, being one. Part of that is the exercise, which you were just doing when I walked up on you. Now, if somebody saw you doing it, they'd be like, "What's this guy doing? He's playing with the air."
Yeah. That's Qigong and Tai Chi.
Yeah. Now, what's the beauty of those practices? The
Well,
benefits?
like was just described in that practice, staying close to the ground, right? So all those practices allow you to become grounded, you know, which people are like, well, what does that mean, right? Well, you become rooted into the earth like a tree, right? And in doing so, you notice that your breath becomes more natural rhythm, right? It's not too rapid, right? And your mind becomes still. and you start to feel the energy flowing through your body. So that's why we call it a moving meditation, because it really is. You're actually, and people will attest that come take my classes. It looks very simple, but it's not always easy, right? And you can almost get a full body workout, not an aerobic workout, but it's interesting. You know, you can do qigong for 20 minutes and you could be sweating bullets, right? And it doesn't look like you're doing much, but it's because you're circulating the qi through the meridians of your body, moving down the meridians up and down in your arm, up and down your leg, circulating around, in and out, right? And just like we move with our breath, in and out. So we focus on our breath and we focus on the energy opening up through our body, and we stay grounded. And then we find that inner peace, right? Find that stillness inside. And it's a pretty transformative practice. Like, it's certainly changed my life, and I do it every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
Wow. Have you ever been to China?
Nope.
Do you want to?
Yeah, someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What part has Dr. Wu played in your life?
Well, he has been instrumental in a lot of levels. So first, he was my healer, right? Because I had a bunch of injuries that Western medicine couldn't heal.
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, just to recap that story, if I remember correctly, a child accidentally hit you in the chin, jumped up, and their skull just collided with your chin, and that threw your whole system off?
Yeah, that was one of the injuries that occurred to me. Yeah,
so it was like a knockout type thing?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I had an immediate concussion and ended up getting a bulging disc in my neck. That was one of the injuries that I had. I had multiple injuries to my spine. You know, I broke my low back twice in my life. And, you know, and I had other things going on too, but that was kind of the main stuff. You know, I dealt with digestive issues. I've had things like Lyme disease and stuff like that too. And at the time, you know, I was not getting any help from doctors, and I needed to find a way to heal myself, right? And I was like, well, what? I'm not going to just live like this the rest of my life. I'm in my early 20s. I'm like, I have my whole life ahead of me, you know?
Right.
And
how old are you now?
I'm 38.
Okay.
So
you're a young man.
Yeah. So the universe, fortunately for me, presented healers on my path. You know, I was led to a Reiki master. Then I was led to a Chinese herbalist and shamanic healer. I was led to a craniosacral practitioner that was incredible, right? And through all these people, then I was eventually led to my teacher, Dr. Wu. And what was pretty cool is the craniosacral woman had said, she was very intuitive, and she had said, yeah, I feel like you need to go see him, and he's going to help to heal you, and then one day he's going to become your mentor, right? And she was correct. So I started seeing him. I started doing the Tai Chi, receiving acupressure treatments, taking Chinese herbs and teas, and doing a lot of the things that, you know, that he did and worked with me through. I started coming every week to all the classes and seeing him for treatments and integrating all the other things that I was working with that were helping me, the aromatherapy and crystal healing, sound healing, all these different modalities that were coming to me from these people, from these holistic practitioners, and and changing my lifestyle, changing my diet, you know, talking about that big time, you know, changing different supplements and stuff like that, right? So through doing that, I became healed, and it was a huge, like, awakening for me. Like, it was like, oh my God,
it worked.
You know? Like, and
you always go into it with a little doubt.
Yeah, well, and it was uncomfortable. First off, I'm in a lot of pain, right? And when you're in pain, sometimes it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
You're vulnerable.
You know, you're like, how am I going to get through this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the pain gets worse before it gets better.
That's right.
Too. I mean, that's what I talk about a lot with my clients.
That's the essence of detox. Too.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to really, everything's going to come to a head, boil over, right?
Yep.
And then it's going to clear out. Right? It's very common. You see it across the board. So, but yeah, and then so after that, and once I was really at a really good space, you know, at the time I was going to grad school to study for speech language pathology at the time. I was like, oh, because I was working with autistic kids when I got headbutted,
Right,
you know,
right.
and I was like, oh, I think I want to keep working with autistic kids. That was always like my passion, because my brother had Asperger's and stuff, and I was always interested in the mind, and that's why I got a psychology degree as my undergrad, you know. But he sat me down at one day and he said, you're very grounded, and I think you will be a good teacher and a good healer, and I want to train you. And so immediately I get goosebumps all over my body. I'm like thinking back to when the woman said, you know, well, you're going to see him and he's going to become your mentor someday,
Wow,
you know?
yeah.
So, and so I had to sit with it for a minute and decide what I wanted to do, you know, because I had a big decision. I had just gotten accepted in this grad school program, like probably like the week before.
Right.
And he said, well, if you need to come see me every week, work with me every week in order to do it. And I couldn't do grad school and work with him. And I sat in meditation for a good 24, 48 hours, like, you know, and everything the universe was telling me was like, train with this master, you know, let go of that. That's not really right for you, basically.
Right.
And so I did. I dropped out of grad school and I started working with him every week. So
it all synced up.
Yeah, I did that for 5 years.
Yeah, your parents must have been like, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, they were used to my stuff by then. So, yeah. But that's my long, short story of how I met him. And I don't know, did you ask another question? I forget.
I just asked what kind of role he had.
Yeah, and so that was his role, you know, really. It's, you know, as my healer and then as my teacher.
And you still have a great relationship with him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you are able to have your own practice.
Yeah.
And in your practice, you do herbs. You do what else?
So I do some similar things that he does. Like I do the Tui Na, the acupressure, right? I also work with fire cupping, moxa, gua sha, these different Chinese techniques for healing, integrating the herbs and the teas. And then big thing that I work with, like I said, is the aromatherapy and the crystals. Do a little bit of sound healing, energy work. And I also work with people with their diet, big time, and supplements.
Okay, so here's the big question, Erik. Because obviously, I was in the business. I've turned the corner and I'm doing the nonprofit stuff now. But, so I understand the practitioner side.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks that it's a business. It kind of sucks that we have to make money, right? Do you find that the business side takes away from it a little bit? Because I found that to be true in my practice. Where it's like you want to help somebody, but you need that money to pay the bill.
Yeah, it's sometimes I can feel limited in what I can do with someone, right? And I wish I could provide the treatment to them for free, right? And I do work with people too. Like some people, if they are willing to do the work, that's the thing. If they're willing to do their work, right? I work with them, and I can give them discounts, and because I can tell like they want to get well, right? And but yeah, it can be an issue. And then there's the whole world of social media marketing and all this stuff. And I try to have fun with it,
Barf.
I try to be, like I said, like the 81 Days of Tao, like, I try to do inspirational things and like just put myself out there in a way that is not like, hey, this is me, buy my stuff, or hey, come, take this service with me and this and that, But yeah, it can be, but I've also seen, as the years have gone on, I've attracted clients that are perfectly aligned up to work with me, and I've seen profound healing happen, and that's the thing. I'm not meant to work with people forever, too. If I'm doing my job correctly, right, and people are getting well, then people are going to come see me. They're going to get well, and then we put them on a program, set them up with a plan for their own self-healing, because really, there's only so much I can do in a session anyways.
You're a guide.
It's you have to guide people to change their lifestyle, if that is what is required, or you have to figure out
that's the essence of coaching. Yeah,
is what is best for them, and then what are they willing to do, right? And then meet them where they're at,
But yeah,
sometimes it become, one day when I am a wealthy, millionaire, billionaire, right? And I can be a philanthropist and I can do more things.
Right.
I will, and I am in the midst of working on, virtual aspects of my business besides the podcast, doing more digital download things. I'm going to be offering things for free too,
Right.
but I'm going to have courses and classes and things that people can be a part of, anywhere in the world, because I just like this podcast, you want to be able to reach people with your message.
Right.
And the more people we can help, the better, regardless of whatever the financial, implications are,
Right.
because bottom line, I know what it's like to be in pain and suffering from things and deal with chronic illness and chronic pain.
Right.
And I know what it's like to get through to the other side.
That's right.
And so now it's my mission to help people
Right.
that are struggling, and
Right.
and I realize that so many people just have no idea with their health and the connection that the diet makes, the connection that things in the environment, their thoughts, their,
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Because we, and I was, and you are, in the intervention business in a way.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you have to almost convince somebody that this is what works.
Yeah.
This works for me, and this has worked for this client and that client. And even if somebody believes you, they still have doubt because they've been so socially engineered by the Western world to go to the white jacket doctor and take these pills. And that was the challenge that I had in my practice.
Yeah. But you know what's happening though? I'm telling you though, I have seen, even because I've been doing this for about 10 years for myself, right?
Right.
And I have seen a shift though.
Yeah.
I've seen a shift from 2009 to 2019. There's a huge shift in people that are like, they're realizing that the things aren't working for them,
Right.
And I don't want to totally bash the Western world and allopathic medicine and things. There's a time when it's important, when surgery is needed, when saving lives, and there's different things that they do that's incredible. That's
the emergency room is all hats off to them.
Yeah, that's helping to save people's lives and prolong their lives in certain ways, right? But they don't do anything for prevention. Right? They don't do anything for lifestyle change. They don't do anything for diet and
chronic illnesses,
and thoughts
nothing.
and chronic illness, any of that,
Just
right?
pills, yeah.
And that's where people like me and you come in, right? And because there's a void that people aren't receiving this care, and they can, they're trying all the things. They're taking the medications, they're doing the surgeries, they're doing the different things that are instructed by their doctors, and they're not getting well.
Right.
And then it's like, well, what are they going to do? Again, like I went through. Well, people have a choice to either accept their suffering and like that this is how I'm going to be the rest of my life, or seek alternative ways.
People get attached to it too.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I like to make the distinction between my disease and the disease. It's one thing I say to my clients all the time, right? It's not yours. This is something that is going on, right, in your body right now.
Right.
But it's not permanent, and it's not something that you own. You know,
Right.
It's so. Anyways, but I've seen a big shift, and it's good because people are waking up, and then they're getting more access to things. Like right now, I'm teaching this class at the Community Health Center in Middletown, right? That is this awesome place that actually provides low-cost healthcare to people that need it, right? Which is good. It's it's a Western, clinic, but they're open to alternative things. So they're having me come in and teach a free Qigong class for the community this summer.
Cool.
So I'm up on the roof in this air-conditioned room by their community gardens. It's beautiful. You overlook the Aragoni Bridge and the river in Middletown.
Nice.
It's amazing, know. And I'm finding more and more of these opportunities are coming up with the Western mindset, and they embrace what I have to offer. Like, in corporate places and this and that, they're like, oh my God, we've been looking for somebody like you.
Right.
Like there's a demand for it,
Right.
And so it's interesting how things have shifted, and I'm so happy to see that, and seeing people, like our podcast, taking healing into their hands, taking back their power and not giving it all to the doctor or giving it all to anyone else, right?
And I advise everyone listening to this to go check out his podcast. I'm on there. What episode am I? The Sunlight Sunny, Eat the Sunlight.
Yeah, I think it's Eat the Sunlight
Yeah.
with Dr. Reese is
Yeah.
the name of the episode. Yeah. So
It was a fun
Apple,
time.
Apple doesn't want numbered episodes anymore, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, so we took them off.
Oh.
But yeah, but it's
Well,
Eat the Sunlight with Dr. Reese. That's
I'll
right.
have to
Yeah.
take my
Yeah,
episodes off.
little FYI.
Oh, thank you. You have digitally healed me. All right. What are 3 tips that you would give someone for inner peace?
Well, I like this mantra that my teacher advises a lot, and it's pretty simple. That you take a moment for yourself. First off, every day, take some time for yourself, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, right? And find a practice that works for you. So a type of meditation, right? A type of movement, yoga, qigong, whatever it is, because everybody's different, and you
Right.
have to find what works for you,
Right.
right? And to take time to be still and ask yourself, who am I?
Who
Right.
am I?
Who am I? Right?
Who am I?
Because that changes day to day,
Mhm.
right? And bring your awareness inside, right? Go into your heart and say, who am I? Because the more that you do that, the more that you're going to also accept yourself, right? Because a lot of things that we deal with are issues around self-love, right? And the lack thereof, right? And that can come in many forms, right? There can be anger, resentment, pain, all these different thoughts in our ego mind that's, telling us things, right? But you go deeper and you figure out, you be still, and you go to that silent place, right? And you're going to be able to know the truth there, what's really true, because a lot of that stuff that's going on in your mind is not true.
Nope.
It's all an illusion.
That's right.
And so don't believe that stuff, because I laugh at my ego all the time.
Right.
Because another thing too, just because maybe people see us as like enlightened people, right?
Mhm.
Maybe, I don't know, but just because you're enlightened doesn't mean like things you go away and you don't have thoughts, right? And things that come in,
Right.
and doubts and fears and worries and whatever, right? But it's the energy that we give to them, right? Because what is enlightenment anyways, right? Enlightenment is just being woken up to something, right? So okay, so that's the first tip. I get a little long-winded, I apologize. Second tip is figuring out your diet
Yes.
that works for you, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
eliminating toxic foods, preservatives, right? Whether it be gluten-free, dairy-free, whether you want to go vegan, whatever that is, right? You can eat meat, you can eat whatever you want, because everybody's different. I mean, there's certain things that are more beneficial. Like you say, like eat more fruit, right? Eat more vegetables. I tell that everybody, eat more organic fruits and vegetables.
Yep.
If you just do that, even if you didn't make any other changes, let me tell you,
It's gonna help.
it's going to help, right? Because that stuff is going to affect your inner peace.
Yep.
Big time.
Yep.
We are what we eat,
Yep.
right? And these toxins affect our mind, which is going to affect our state of peace,
That's right.
right? And then the third thing is, I guess it's, so the first one is finding a space of stillness, meditation, right? A meditative practice works for you. Second thing, finding a diet that works for you, okay? Third thing, finding a type of movement practice, okay? Whether it can even just be walking, being out in nature, right? That's a huge thing for me. Find some time to be out in nature and breathe in nature. Like, if you want to keep it simple, breathe in nature, find the right diet, find a space of stillness, and ask yourself, who am I?
Who am I is a very common practice in Zen. And it's a meditation mantra.
Yeah.
They go, who am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's true. Like, what is a mantra? Do people know what a mantra is? Right?
Yeah.
Like, so a mantra is something that we say over and over again, right? that is a way that you can actually, when you focus on the mantra, you're not focusing on your thoughts.
Correct.
that are flying in and out and
it's
whatever.
a healthy distraction.
Yeah, you're focusing on one thing. So
Right.
like when we talk about people at night, I can't fall asleep, all these thoughts are racing through. We call that the monkey mind,
Monkey
right?
mind, yeah.
And so we say focus on one monkey, right? Focus on one mantra, right? And then focus on your breath. And that is a way that you can bring yourself to peace. I mean, we all have to breathe.
There's nothing more important than breath. If it stops, we stop.
Yeah.
Immediately. But not only that, see, and I don't know if you've come across it in your journey of health, but I certainly have, and that's breatharianism. People who are just living off the air. I've mentioned it on the podcast briefly. It's not something I want to promote, obviously, because don't try this at home, kids. But there are people that have done it. There's people doing it now. Master Bodhidharma, who is credited for created Zen.
Okay.
He meditated in a cave for 9 years. No food or water.
Yeah.
That's the point that I'm just trying to make, piggybacking off what you said, is there's nutrients in the air. The air, okay, protein, for example, is nitrogen.
Yeah.
Nitrogen's in the air. So, just as an example, now, can anyone do it? Yes and no. It takes work. It's a gradual process to get there, and nobody needs to. Me and you don't need to become breatharians. But I just wanted to piggyback off what you said, because you essentially said breathe in outside, breathe outside.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between breathing outside and breathing inside.
Yeah.
We got this thing called oxygen, which is formless, by the way, folks. Formless. And our world is separated between formless and form. And this formless substance that just is around us, it gives us our life. We can't live without the sun or the air. Period. But it's been proven some people can live without water, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But not without the sun. And not without the air. Those are the two things that we absolutely 100% need. So why not get more of it? We're outside right now breathing air, and Mother Nature is providing us. We're like we're walking around as like little batteries. It's like we're little batteries.
And we need to be charged up.
By the sun.
Yeah. And by the plants and, the rocks.
And the trees. They're breathing.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're taking in our CO2 and they're giving us oxygen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's why, in our modern day society, we get in our cubicles and our four walls, right?
Yeah.
And we're on our computers and our cell phones and all these different things, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's incredible, the things that we can do. I mean, what we're doing right now,
Yeah.
right? It's incredible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, finding that time to be in nature,
Yes.
right? And then if you can move while being in nature, go for a walk, go for a hike. Or what I love to do is do qigong outside, right? Do yoga outside, breathe, expand. And if you take time for that every single day, it'll change your life.
Why do you think yoga has become, in the Western world, an exercise? But in the Eastern world, it's a whole tradition. It's basically a religion.
Yeah. So I think it's because they've turned it into a workout, really.
They westernized it.
Yeah, they westernized it.
Yeah.
But what's great, though, is there is these aspects that, there will be at its core, its foundation, right, of the breath. Yeah. And then I think what people love is the shavasana at the end of class.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where they are still
yes.
and they do nothing, right?
Yes.
And even if that's the only time a day where they are in that space of stillness and meditation, they might not even realize it. Most people probably don't even make that connection, how powerful it is for them.
That's right.
Right? And so that's why they come back, because what's their last memory? The shavasana.
The relaxation.
The relaxation, how they feel. And then they say, wow, I need to have that again. And they get back in their crazy, hamster wheel of a life.
Yeah.
And they're like, I need yoga. I
Yeah.
need to go get some yoga right now or I'm
Yeah.
going to die.
Right. Yeah, it becomes that cup of coffee, so to speak.
Yeah.
That
And
thing.
that's it's healthier than a cup of coffee, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
So.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, you're right. So it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's great that it's been ingrained in
People
our
are
society.
uneducated about it.
Yeah, and a lot of them, like, it turns into a workout.
Interesting story. I was dating this girl many years ago, and she's Greek, and she's like super Orthodox Catholic.
Okay.
In Greece, they have the Orthodox
Yeah,
Church.
yeah.
And we're just talking one day, and we're talking about yoga, and she goes, that's against my religion. And I was like, wow, yeah, because her church is recognizing yoga as the tradition, not just the exercise.
Yeah.
It is an Indian,
Yeah.
there's a whole, people don't understand this.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about yoga, we're talking about the asana,
Yes.
right? The asana is the movement practice,
Yes.
right? But there's pranayama.
Yes.
There's, they do things called satsangs, right? There's a whole lifestyle way of living, just like we're talking about with the Tao and Chinese medicine. It's, that's why Ayurveda there's so many similarities and overlaps
Right.
with Chinese medicine
Yeah,
too.
yoga
So,
means union.
yeah.
Union. And a lot of it is based off Patanjali
Yeah.
and the Yoga Sutras.
Yeah.
He's the Buddha of yoga,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he came a few hundred years after Buddha and Lao Tzu.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
No, I think that's right. Yeah.
But this goes back to my one of my original questions to you on this pod. That time period is magical.
Yeah.
That 500 BC area. You had Gautama the Buddha, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Mahavira, the head of the Jainism religion,
Oh,
on the
okay.
other side of India,
Okay.
around the same time.
Ah.
And then you had Socrates
Yeah.
in Greece.
Yeah.
This is all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
No internet, no newspaper. So they don't know about each other.
Yeah.
What an interesting time in the history of the world. 2,500 years before.
And we are fortunate enough to have their teachings still today.
Wow.
And they still apply.
Yes. Yes. Amazing. They burnt all Socrates, unfortunately. They got rid of him.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, they executed him. So, I mean, you coming from the Christian religion growing up, what's your thoughts on Jesus himself? Yeshua, as his real name is.
Yeah. I feel that, he was an enlightened being, right? Just like in the vein of what you were talking about. I mean, there's also, Solomon and, there's all these other, beings, right? And I think that he, they talk about like that double strand DNA that he had, the beings that like they were just at this higher vibration, this whole other level, and they were able to raise us up, right? And he was coming from a place that it was pure unconditional love.
Yeah.
His heart was wide open.
Wide open.
And was huge. Like when you're talking about like the the Grinch and the Christmas, that thing where his heart's small and it bursts through the seams,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, it's like Jesus was born like that. Like he had that connection directly to God, right?
Right.
And people saw it and they felt good in his presence, right? And they were healed, right? And so they wanted to spread that message. But I feel like it's like, would he want the things that have been done in his name to be done?
Oh,
I don't know.
I do.
I don't think so.
I want to be arrogant and say I know.
You know what I mean? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But I think that the
No
fact
way.
that he was such a powerful force, and that there are aspects of his message that can be actually not able to be manipulated, right? And able to translate to powerful.
The seekers can see through the lines.
Yeah. And because if you think about the Bible is yeah, it's the word of God, right? But it's through a human's eyes
Right.
and words
Right.
and perspective,
Sure,
right?
right.
And there are gems in there. And, you know, we're not trying to commit any blasphemy here to people that,
Right.
you know, are very deep in the faith. You know, there's amazing messages in there, right?
Oh, yeah, of
but it's
course.
people's interpretation of those messages, right? That can be skewed, and then they can be, you know, held to this certain standard and whatnot. And God, like, I mean, it's like God and Jesus, you know, they're all one, and God comes in many forms, right? It can be to many people, right? Different perspectives. And Jesus, like, it's like he said, you know, the power that I have, you have it all too.
Yes.
You know, it's like the divine is within you.
He was trying to teach us the same thing Buddha and Lao Tzu
Yeah.
were. The exact same thing is that we all have, let's just call it the potential
Yeah.
to get to a certain level of humanity inside of us. Inner peace.
Yeah.
And
It's like he had a head start.
he was
You know what I
executed
mean?
for it.
He came into this world at a different level, and because he was different, yeah, and because he was stirring up the masses and waking people up, the people that didn't want people to be woken up said,
The Romans hijacked his teachings
yeah,
and converted that area to Christianity about 300 years after he died.
yeah, but they wanted to control the message.
True Christianity was right there
Yeah,
the first 50 to 100 years after he died.
yeah,
Those were the true Christians right there.
yeah,
And eventually the Roman Empire hijacked it.
yeah,
And,
and they adopted a lot from, you know, the pagan tradition
Yep.
and stuff like that.
And they
you
also
know?
threw a lot of astrology in there.
Yeah,
The astrology is all over the Bible,
yeah,
all the way down to being the sun.
mm-hmm,
And I don't study astrology, but I know enough about it to see the similarities. And there's so many messages, like 33. He died at 33. There's 33 vertebrae in your spine.
yeah,
How does the Kundalini work? The energy comes up,
yeah,
right? 12 disciples. Look at a clock.
yeah,
Disc, disciple. Clock is a disc, and there's 12 numbers. These things are like these little hidden gems.
yeah.
But yes, enlightened master, teaching the truth, executed for it, but not the only enlightened master.
No. And it's when you connect with the pure love of Christ, right?
Yeah.
When you connect with that aspect,
Yeah.
right? That's something that anyone could connect with.
Anyone, yeah.
And that aspect of his teachings are true. That's the truth. That's not the illusion.
Well, I love it.
Right.
I love it when I meet like a really loving Christian
Yeah.
who, even if you're Hindu, they're like, they still hug you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that some people have
Yeah.
become arrogant by ignorance.
Yeah.
That's a good phrase. Arrogant by ignorance, and think that it's the one and only way. I met a man on a train one time many years ago, and he tried to convert me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, and I'm sorry to
go ahead.
interject, but remember what we were talking about that night? Did Jesus learn from other people?
yes,
Right?
no question.
Other teachers.
No question.
Right? Around that time, other faiths,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just wanted
Yeah.
to say that. Yeah.
In the Bible, his story is missing from 13 to 30, and it's been said that he studied with the Essenes, which are like Jewish monks,
Mm-hmm.
basically. It's also, some people say he went to India,
Yeah.
and if he did, he learned him some Buddha.
Yeah.
But either way, when he came back to Nazareth, Jerusalem, that area, he was dealing with Jewish people.
Yeah.
And the Jewish tradition was already set in stone.
Yeah.
So he had to speak to them how he couldn't come talking about Buddha type stuff
Yeah.
because they wouldn't understand. So he had to focus on God. He had to give them a goal, kingdom of heaven. He had to speak. It's like me and you do public speaking. you may speak to a crowd of inmates at a prison differently than you speak to a crowd of people in Farmington, Connecticut.
Yeah. Yeah.
You change your language a little bit.
Adapt so you can get your message across.
Correct, and that's what a good master does, and that's what he did. That's why one of the best books I've ever read, arguably the greatest health book of all time, is The Essene Gospel of Peace.
Ah.
And that's supposedly it's from the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found, and it's basically the missing part of the Bible of Jesus with the Essenes before 30 years old, and he's teaching them how to be healthy. He's teaching them fasting. He's teaching them enemas. He's teaching them how to get the quote-unquote devils out, which is detox.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing book that influenced a lot of people in the natural health community. But yeah, he was an enlightened master, and he was trying to get his point across. And I think the Roman Empire hijacked it, and it still exists to this day. Hence, the Catholic Church being operated in Italy.
Yeah.
The Vatican.
Yeah.
That's the Roman. That's where the Romans
Roman
were.
Catholic. Yeah.
So, and that's where that comes from, and a very powerful group.
Yeah.
And I think it was easy to hijack them because it was only 3 years. It was only documented for 3 years. Or at least that's what was distributed.
Yeah.
Just those 3 years. Gautama the Buddha's 45 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's significant. 45 versus 3. But Jesus had a very dramatic ending.
Yeah.
Right? They say it's the greatest story ever told. But when you look at both, and throw Lao Tzu in there. Lao Tzu is more nature, right? More going with the flow. Buddha's more shut your mind down.
Yeah.
Your mind is not your, you're not your mind. And Jesus is of the heart.
Yeah.
So, you could separate that as the heart, the mind, and the nature.
Yeah.
And you got 3 powerful enlightened masters right there. And any seeker should study all 3, in my opinion. Study Jesus, study Buddha, study Lao Tzu. Those 3. And you'll start getting some answers as a seeker. It can be tedious being a seeker.
Yeah.
Going down these rabbit holes and finding truth and having awakenings. And so...
But it can be rewarding, too.
Yeah, I think it's important to find. If you're going to seek,
you
got to find.
Yeah.
Don't be a seeker for 30 years. Be a seeker for 10.
Yeah.
Find what you're looking for.
Yeah, but when you figure it out, you figure it out.
Practice is what I'm saying,
Yeah,
basically.
because that's when you find it. Yeah, then it's like, because instead of going from one thing to one thing to one thing.
That's not practicing.
Yeah. But when you stay true to what you find your truth is, right?
Yeah, you gotta
you're
practice.
like, oh, this is it. Okay.
You got to practice, man.
Yeah.
It's like it's like I told you the story of when I met my mentor, who I just called the Blue Antelope, the mystic at the ashram. He was waking up at the sunrise and meditating for 3-4 hours. That's practice.
Yeah.
There's no seeking there.
Yeah.
He's already found, and now he's practicing. Same thing in Zen. They always wake up with the sun, walking meditation, right?
Yeah.
The way they eat, they don't talk while they're eating. There's just this practice. All with the purpose of getting past the mind, going beyond the mind, and asking the question, who am I? As you said, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I? Because we're not who we think we are. I used to think I was like this, rock star radio personality, And then I thought I was a rock star healer.
Yeah.
It's like 2 different genres, same ego.
Yeah.
So it was this, it's almost the same gig. Because either way, and this correlates with what I was talking about to you 10 and whatever minutes ago about business. It's easy to get caught up in a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, isn't that what social media is in a way?
Can be.
The more popular you become,
Yeah.
the more business you have. Just like politics. It's easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah. But at the same time, yeah, it's power that we give it too.
Yeah.
Because what happens if there's no social media, right? Like, you know, Kim wouldn't like me saying that, but my co-host of the podcast.
Yeah,
but it's like, but what if there's none of that there? Then there's no following, right? Then who are we, right? Who are we without that?
Right.
When we become attached to that,
Yeah.
then there's no separation with our identity, right? So it's interesting. It's like, yeah, but who doesn't want at the same time to have a following, have people, oh, look at them, right?
Yeah,
You know, but you have to have it with, you know, kind of, if you can make it so it's a healthy, you know, like, oh, great, oh, thank you for following me. I appreciate it. That's nice. I'm glad you like what I have to offer. Like, you know, just shift the perspective and like, oh, that's cool, nice. You know, glad you got something out of that. Like, you know, but it's not like, oh, good, they follow me. Oh, good, I have the masses. I'm on the pupil, right? I have reached the mountaintop.
The precious.
And everyone will listen to me, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, this day and age too, it's like it's gonna shift in an instant too. So.
Back to Jesus real quick before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Do you think, hypothetically, if he showed up in this era right now, with social media, with the news, with the clothing we wear, I mean, just this new era, do you think people would accept him? He has an Instagram, he has a Facebook. Him and his disciples, they're spreading the message through the internet, and maybe they have a commune somewhere.
I don't think they would believe it.
Right.
I don't think they would believe it was him.
Right.
And but I don't know. But then at the same time, though, him being true to his authentic self, being connected, right? I think it would, over time, maybe things would shift, right? If he was able to shift the perspective. But I think actually all those things that you just talked about, you know, the social media, all those different things, would actually be more of a hindrance of his message at the beginning.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because there's so much stuff out there, you know, these days it's fake news, this and that, and whatever, you know. But eventually, though, I think it would, because of being him, being true and authentic, right? Because that's what the truth is,
right?
You know, once you weed through all the bull, right?
The absolute is the absolute.
Yeah, you're gonna find the truth.
Right.
So that's my answer to that.
Right. Same with Buddha.
Yeah, same with all of them, because more they are aligned, like this last line, when you are content to simply be yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you, right? So when you be who you are and you know who you are, right, and stand in your power, right, things will align.
Yeah.
Things will shift, things will fall away, and things will appear, right?
Right.
So.
Wise words. Well, I think this podcast could go on for a long time.
Well, we might have to do a part 2.
True indeed, man. True indeed. And so where can people find you?
So they can find me on my website, which is chi4healing.com, CHI for healing. And also on social media, most places I am at Chi4Healing. On Snapchat, though, I am Earthwalker11. And also joined this new TikTok thing. I'm also Earthwalker11 with that. But
what's
just getting
TikTok?
new on that. I don't know. It's this new thing the kids are all raving about. But I don't know. It's a new social media thing.
Okay,
so.
Here we go again.
But yeah, that's where most people can find me. And I have a Facebook page where I post a lot of stuff, and my Instagram I do a lot of stuff on too.
I
so.
like the Earthwalker.
Yeah, that's
Man.
part of my thing. Being connected to the earth and walking close to the ground. And
Yeah, not everyone can go forage, Eric.
It's true, but that's why I'm trying to teach people the things that they can. So,
Right.
And it's not just about the foraging too. That's the thing, It's having that connection to the earth.
If you were stuck in the woods, would you do all right?
Yeah, I would do all right. Yeah, I would have to remember some skills that I may have not honed up on in a while. But
Have you ever seen the movie or know the story of Chris Chandler in the movie Into the Wild?
oh yeah, that's actually my brother, except he's still alive. But I could tell you a whole talk about my brother. But my brother's a gypsy.
Really?
He just lives
Van life?
outside of society.
Van life?
No, even more remote than that. Like he has no belongings, and he's a FREEGAN, and he
A FREEGAN?
he lives off the charity of others.
Wow.
And he has no home, and he has no, and I tell you, last time I don't see him or talk to him much, but he came back east a while back, and you don't see as much clarity in people's eyes as I did in his eyes. He was just free. He had no possessions, no nothing, no.
See, that's what I experienced with the blue antelope.
Yeah.
He had like 2 bags, no social media,
Yeah.
just living at an ashram.
Yeah. He doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have anything.
Right.
And he just travels around. Somehow he finds a way to travel all around the world.
How old is he?
He's 10 years younger than me, so he's 28.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good
So-
for him.
And that's the one that had Asperger's, and then he found who he was, and that's what he does.
He had an
So-
awakening?
Huh?
Does the Asperger still like?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it actually allows him to be how he is. So we call him Bupabuli, the free and easy wanderer. So, but yeah, my brother, I keep telling him, I'm like, dude, there could be a movie about you, like, Into the Wild, except he survives.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you about that since you're so knowledgeable about nature. This kid, Chris Chandler, for those that never seen it, he went, he got sick of society at a young age, 21, 22.
Yeah, same with
Right out of college.
my brother.
And
Yeah.
he went out there, and he rubber tramped across the nation. That rubber tramp is like vans and RVs and sometimes walking or whatever it is. And he ended up in Alaska, and he ended up finding a bus
Yeah.
deep into the wild, and he survived for a few months, and then he died because he couldn't find his way back, and he ended up taking the root of a potato. Was it?
Yeah, I think it was a rhizome.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was the wrong kind of rhizome. It was like the veins were wrong, and he thought they were, the one that was edible. So
Mistake.
yeah, so
Fatal mistake.
yeah, and that's the thing.
And
It's
he
like
died.
yeah,
And it that shut down his digestive system, I think.
yeah. I think he probably went into organ failure. Is probably what happened. It probably poisoned his liver,
Yeah.
and then
And he died, and it took like a week or so, or a few weeks to starve completely.
yeah.
And he died. And
He probably could. After that, he probably couldn't keep anything down. It was the toxins had probably prevented him from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It's a fascinating movie for anyone listening.
Yeah, and it was originally a book.
Right.
So.
Right. And there's documentaries, like there's stories on like 2020 back in the day. This is in the early 90s, I think.
Yeah.
And so Chris Chandler, Into the Wild. Go watch that. So you would have known not to eat that?
Maybe not. I'm not an expert on everything.
Okay.
I know a lot, but we'll see. I'm not at that level.
There's a lot of Chris Chandlers out there now in the form of van life. Van life is popping.
Oh yeah.
People are getting vans.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an RV. Sometimes it's a regular cargo van that they convert.
Yeah.
And they're out there, and you can live almost free, especially in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Arizona, Nevada, Utah.
Yeah.
There's land
That's
out
where
there.
my brother goes to this community in Southern California, but like close to Nevada. It's called Slab City.
Oh, I'm familiar with Slab City. Yeah.
Yeah. So he spends most of his winters there, I believe.
Really?
And then when the nice time of year,
But
like
where?
he'll travel around.
What does he do for shelter?
I don't know. He probably sleeps in the tent, or I mean, that whole community is a FREEGAN community. So
Right.
he'll dig a ditch, he'll get a meal, he'll whatever, help someone
Yeah.
carry water in, and
Yeah.
so. But yeah, I mean, he's gone up from there. He's gone to Alaska. He's gone down to Mexico. He's gone to Guatemala. He's been to Costa Rica. He actually made his way to Europe because my stepfather was going to Europe. So then he tried backpacking all around Europe because someone told him he could do that really well there. And he did for a while.
Wow.
He ended up in, I think, Norway. He was trying to spend the winter outside in Norway. And I'm glad that they actually ended up finding him and deporting him back to the States, because he might not have survived that one.
What was he into, like the breath work to like make the cold warm, like?
Yeah, well, and I think he found a cabin and he had a wood stove in that situation, but
Wow. This is fascinating.
yeah, he's quite a story.
This is a whole other episode.
Yeah,
though.
like he shows up to my house in a coat that he made and wove together with dental floss. And it stunk really bad because he'd probably been wearing those same clothes for months, and he had all sorts of crazy equipment, tools, and in his backpack of things that he could use and make traps, and
And he's so happy.
Yeah, I'd never seen so much clarity in a person's eyes than I did in his eyes. Super clear, connected. Like he was kind of like a wild animal. Like he's kind of like a feral creature.
Right.
Like he's,
Right.
he made a mockery of my house, but that's fine.
Did he really?
Yeah. He ripped the thing out the wall, and I don't know what he was doing. My wife was happy to see him go.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's a one of a kind person.
That's amazing.
So.
And that's something I talk about on this podcast often is you don't have to be in the society if you don't want to.
Yeah.
I meet people at ashrams that jump from ashram to ashram, dude.
Yeah.
And they may have a background in like waiting tables or bartending. So they'll go to a city.
Uh-huh.
They'll do that for 2 months, stack money, and then they're free for the next 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's done that too. He's done work in like New Orleans and stuff, and he really liked New Orleans, he said. So
Okay.
and then he'll, whatever. But he's funny though. He doesn't really use money though. It's weird. He doesn't really live in a world where money is, I don't know. He figures out to live without money. So.
It's almost hardcore Buddhism in a way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's definitely figured out a spiritual connection. You have to at that point. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
to be able to humble yourself to ask for money or shelter.
Yeah.
Or bread.
Yeah, and he'll dive in dumpsters. He's a dumpster diver, and he'll do all that stuff. I don't think there's anything that is below him.
Right, and some people might. Right, this is a good lesson for folks. If you see a homeless man out there, or a quote unquote bum, or a quote unquote hobo, they might be out there by choice.
Yeah.
Because it's crossed my mind back when I was going through my transitions. Because sometimes you want to challenge yourself and you want to humble yourself. Some people are trying to kill their ego. They're trying to kill the ego. It's a hard thing to kill because, as I say all the time, our egos are pretty much formed at about 13 years old. Right? Yeah. That's when we become an adolescent. That's when we're like, we're alive at 13. We're not innocent anymore. And some people wake up between 30 and 40, somewhere in there. People usually have an opportunity to wake up. Not everybody does.
Yeah.
But when you do, you want to kill that ego. Gautama the Buddha, back when he was just Siddhartha Gautama, the prince, he walked away from a wealthy life of being a prince.
Yeah.
Left his kid and his wife. He left everything to go become an ascetic, right? And later on, his wife, before somebody calls him a deadbeat dad, his wife and his son came back around 15 years later and became disciples.
Wow.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Mahavira, the main figure of Jainism, he walked around naked, refused to wear clothes. He just walked around naked. Big dude too. They said he was a wrestler. He was like 6'2", 6'3", just this big, massive ball of muscle, just walking around naked. Jesus went to house, asked for shelter, asked for bread. Isn't that the whole message of the Lord's Prayer? Bread every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Daily bread.
Bread is the analogy of just getting what you need, right?
Yeah.
Lao Tzu in the cave. Dude, it's hard to kill our egos, to humble ourselves in that way, and it sounds like that's what your brother's done.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Get him on the podcast.
Yeah. I can't get him on the phone, so.
Does he know what a microphone is?
He knows what a microphone is, but.
You can't even get him on the phone.
No, I haven't had any correspondence with him in a while.
He just shows up.
Sometimes.
I wasn't expecting to talk about that.
No, I know. Well, when you brought up Into the Wild, I was like, oh, well, that's my brother. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. The listeners just got a treat. A real treat. If you're struggling, you're stressed out from your bills, you're stressed out from your job, you're stressed out from your marriage, whatever it is. You're stressed out from your emotions, just in general. Your mind is messing with you. I think that's one of the points of this podcast, is to know that there's other ways to find. There's inner peace is there. It's available for everyone. It's right there at the palm of our hands. All we have to do is work, put in a little practice, put in a little work, and it's there. We're in this illusion, Earthwalker. We're in this illusion. It's in the Eastern world, it's called the Maya, right? The Maya, the illusion, or the Leela, the play. This podcast should have ended 4 times already. Have you levitated yet?
I'm still on the earth.
So go check out Erik Harris on his social media, and definitely his podcast. Check out the episode we did. And if you want more info about this pod or myself, go to drreese.com. That's doctor spelled out. And again, the first 12 episodes are the inner peace practice. And I hope that you're getting something out of this unusual series of recordings.
Thanks for listening to Inner Peace with Dr. Reese. If this episode opened your heart, feel free to share on social media and tell your loved ones. Also, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, may peace be with you.